Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. This is the Spyderco Manix 2, and this is now an upgraded Spyderco Manix 2. It's upgraded in two ways. Number one, it now has a Lynch clip, and number two, it now has the Flytanium steel bearing cage. It already had the upgrade of the backspacer here, the G10 backspacer, and it also is a sprint run with S90V and Peel-Ply carbon fiber. So I think it's a pretty nice customized knife now, or semi-customized knife, and we'll see if I do any other mods to it. It also has one other mod that it has to it is it has a rounded spine, a crown spine, which is aftermarket, and a nice feature as well. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the main two things I wanted to talk about here, obviously, are the Flytanium cage and the Lynch clip. Let me do a quick couple words about the Lynch clip. So I really love the Lynch clip that was on the Para 3 when I got it. And obviously it's a different clip because it's made specifically for the Para 3, has this different shape. This is the one that fits on a lot of other models that Spyderco does. This one's, again, more specifically for the Para 3. This is the stonewashed version, and this is the satin version. So you can see the difference between satin and stonewashed. See it in different lights here. Hopefully that helps. You can see that. But the main thing I wanted to point out here was I found it a little interesting just how deep carry this is on the Manix. Now, it says it's for several Spydercos, but I mean, you can see exactly how deep carry this is on the Manix, whereas on the Para 3, this is pretty much almost a full deep carry, but not quite. You know, and on the Manix, it is deeper than full deep carry, and I don't know how I feel about that. Honestly, I think it's a little bit possibly too much, but I'll try it out and see how I like it over the next couple of days. As far as the super deep carry, I will say one thing is that the ergonomics on this, there's no hotspot here because the entire clip is sort of behind my palm here. So it really gets rid of the entirety of any clip hotspot that you would have. This is the normal clip that comes with it, and the normal spot for the clip, I can show you guys on this side, is here. So normally you'd have this part, you know, right where your hand is, and you'd feel it. Now let's talk about the Flytanium cage. Well, before I do, I'll say I do think that this is a pretty high quality clip. I'll also say one other thing is that the screws that came with the Lynch clip do not fit the Manix, or at least this version of the Manix. Instead, I had to use the original clip screws from the Manix. The ones that come with the Lynch clip, I think, are H5 or H6 hexes, and this one is, these are actually T8 screws that come as clip screws on this Manix. So the threads were not large enough, or not the threads, but the actual diameter of the screw wasn't large enough, and I had to use the original screws from the Manix clip. Let's talk about the Flytanium cage now. So the Flytanium cage makes this thing feel so solid. I mean, before, you know, you'd feel the rest of the knife felt solid, but that cage always felt a little, you know, cheap. You could hear the ball rattle inside of it. I don't know if I don't know if everybody can hear the ball rattle inside theirs, but I could definitely hear the ball rattle inside the plastic one that was on mine. And so just getting this titanium cage, there's no rattle now, as you can see, absolutely no rattle, and it is just fully solid. It feels solid. It's great. I'm still breaking in a little bit, but it feels so good and solid when I open and close the knife. It no longer has any cheap feel in these mechanics whatsoever. The changing it out was a little bit of a chore because there's a spring in here. So the way this sits is it sits in here like this. There's a spring on the back end, and then you have this this metal back piece right here, which is held in by these two screws. It's basically a plate that runs here. And what that's doing is the plate runs like this and then has a hook on the end. Now the spring sits inside that hook, and that's what gives the tension to push the cage forward, which pushes the steel ball against the blade. The steel ball bearing is located inside the cup here. Now, the way these are designed, like I said, the spring goes on the end of this, and then there's a cup on top to hold the steel bearing. And on the bottom, it's basically a straight line here on both sides. And what that is intended to do is hold the ball from falling through. As you can see, it creates a bottom for the ball. So the way you install this, again, is you're going to install it with the ball up toward the ceiling and the bottom of the cup down toward the floor. So that's one of the main things you need to remember. Now, when you disassemble this, the way to disassemble it is take the screw off of here, take this screw off of here, then take this screw off of here, but do not remove the bottom pivot screw or this bottom screw here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to remove the top pivot screw, you're going to lift the scale up, but don't take out the lanyard tube. Lift the scale up, swing this around using the lanyard tube as a pivot. And as you do that, you're going to want to put your hands over top of this to stop. What you don't want to happen is have the spring, you're going to try to hold it together and slowly release the tension, because if you don't pay attention to that when you lift the scale up, it's going to basically explode. You have a spring that has tension, and as soon as you release the tension, it's gonna fly all over the place. So what you need to do again is, as you lift it up, hold this in place, hold the blade in place so it doesn't, it doesn't move all around. Swing it around, and then slowly release the tension off the spring. You'll be able to, while keeping the top of the cup, the top of this cup upright, because if you don't keep the top of the cup upright, the ball will fall out, and those steel ball bearings will roll all over the place, and they'll be hard to find. So the two things you don't want to lose: the steel ball bearing and the spring. Okay, because you'll probably easily be able to keep track of this, and this bar isn't going anywhere because you still have this screw into the bar, and you're going to have to lift the blade out in order to release the rest of the tension and get everything out. So once you've lifted the blade out, you've moved this over. Right, well, I should put it in the right order. Once you've moved this over while releasing tension, lifting the blade out, you let this go, release the tension the rest of the way, and then you just dump the steel ball bearing, put it to the side, get the new steel ball bearing cage, put the steel ball bearing in the steel ball bearing cage, again with the cup up, the top of the cup up to the sky, the bottom of the cup down to the floor, and then you hold it, you put the spring on the end of the stick, put the spring on the end of the stick, and push it against the hook that's in this bar, put it back in against the, put it through. Now there's steel liners on either side of this, and what you're going to do is this steel liner on the right side is actually going to rest the cage. So the cage isn't like halfway through. What the cage is the spring assembly for the cage is actually sitting to the left of that steel liner, just like this is sitting to the left of the blade through the Spidey hole. Okay, then you're going to push the tension, back onto, or push the spring so there is tension, while holding down the top of the plate and holding down this. Then you're going to put the blade on, which creates somewhere for the tension, when you release the tension, to go. So you essentially put the blade on, and then once you've got the blade on, and you're going to have to do this all in one motion, holding the top steel bar, the assembly here, and the blade. You're going to have to hold all three, snap them all into place at the same time while not releasing the tension, because you don't want, the spring to explode and throw your steel ball bearing everywhere. And then once you've got that in place, then you can go ahead and let go. Then what you're going to want to do is very quickly, while holding the assembly, put your screw back in here, turn it over. Then you're going to swing your scale back around, and you're going to line up your pivot, put your pivot back on, put your pivot back in, then put this screw, and then, you know, line up your pivots however you need to do to get the action you want, and then you're good. That's probably a quick explanation of how to change the assembly. I didn't do a disassembly here because I originally tried to, and I was figuring it out as I was going along. I don't know if you guys prefer me to show you the errors I make while I do things. If you do, just drop a comment, let me know. But you know, I can explain that whole process in a couple of minutes, whereas, you know, that disassembly and reassembly video probably would have been about 20 minutes. So, you know, let me know what you guys want for the future. But I hope this is helpful for how to assemble and disassemble the Manix and replace your steel ball bearing cage. And I hope it also was helpful with how the Lynch clip works in the context of the Manix too. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've had any disassembly issues with the Manix, or if you've owned the Flytanium cage or Lynch clip and what you think about how it works with the Manix. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for all my content. Thank you guys so much for watching.